Helen, thank you so much for talking to us today. Look, as the chair of Network for Learning, I'd love to start with them. They're a fantastic example of government digitisation. Tell me, why do you think that they've been such a great success?
Like most organisations, I think the core of the success has to come down to the people. We have a phenomenal team, really vibrant, young, knowledgeable, both focused both on the technology but also on what we do, so they really care. We tried as a board when we first built the plan to incorporate a platform for values. So how do you be nimble and care for the customer? You know, how do we get on and make things happen? And I think, so firstly the people, but the second thing I think too is that there's a right and wrong way to roll out technology projects. And I'm a bit old in the tooth, so you get familiar with what to do and what not to do. I think having critical milestones and then and making sure that you meet those, listening to the customer, looking after the customer. You know, I feel very proud of the fact of the way in which we roll out, the way in which we connect to schools. So all round, it's been a great success. The Minister announced a few weeks ago that we will be at 90% by the end of 2015 this year, and that will be a whole year ahead of a 3-year project. Yeah. So incredibly proud of the team, done an amazing job, very commercially orientated, very with it and forward thinking and innovative, and we certainly act like a commercial company.
Yeah. And you've led many technology companies, so you've got a really good grasp of this IT stuff.
Sure.
It's clearly a moving feast, and things are changing rapidly. But can you tell me specifically how you see this technology change, the digital change, creating security concerns?
I think it's ignore at your peril. Just like you would ensure that you're managing risk around, say, an event. You know, I sit on ATED's board, and you're managing, people coming in and out, and even, I don't know, people on the sidelines of matches and things. Just like that in a physical sense, you've got to do the same at a digital sense. And if we take Network for Learning as an example, with schools, it's critical that we manage privacy, that we protect our young people, but we also protect the teachers as well. So when we're sharing and, teacher to teacher, collaborating, that we are, the teacher is who they say they are, that there's very clear process and very clear guidelines, but also quite a tight gating, if you like, around what can and can't be done in terms of on the network itself.
And you're known for being passionate about technology, both in your work and personal life. Can you tell me your views on digital disruption and sort of examples of how you see businesses responding to that?
Sure. I think it's been fabulous over the last 30 years that I've been involved in technology, watching the evolution and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And in some respects, you've got to take a gamble as a business. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's around the corner, and that's what makes technology fun. But it's also incredibly important that businesses, both at a governance, executive and within the business, really recognise and understand and appreciate and ignore at your peril, actually, technology and technological evolution. So it's taking that kind of balance of what you know and what you don't know, and being forward enough and confident enough to accept the change. And we all know that so many companies go out of business, companies that you don't expect to go out of business, go out of business because they actually are blindsided by the competitors. Technology is a disruption, and it's a huge risk for every company, actually. And there's great examples of where, for example, internet banking, where you now have this embeddedness between the product and the technology. So we have a blend now. Would you call that a banking or finance product? Do you call it a technology product? Well, it's actually both. And banks, for example, aside from obviously regulation, are at risk from disruption around social networks, for example. So if you take a social network like Facebook, there are so many users in Facebook. So it's not too far to think that Facebook could turn around and create a bank and leverage and touch those customers, whether it be on a payments basis. And we see this all the time with Google Wallet and other things. So I think every business has to really appreciate and understand what's happening and leverage that. The other thing I think that's really important to recognise in business is that the role of the IT department is changing too. So you still have your core ERP and other CRM type requirements, but particularly in larger organisations, each department knows their business so well, and often they are very technology savvy. So rather than the IT department being kind of inwardly focused and self-preserving, they should embrace the evolution or the innovation that's happening out within the business, and then take that on and help roll that throughout organisations. And then you'll get a nimble, much more agile kind of approach to doing business. And that way you're adopting and taking the intelligence, particularly of younger people who are, they don't know that internet didn't used to exist, that mobile phones didn't used to exist. They have no clue about that. So I think there's opportunities there for companies to really leverage technological disruption, and it's great. It's exciting. Embrace it. Don't ignore it.
What would you say to companies who just aren't prepared for this digital change?
You're mad. I think firstly, you've got the wrong people in the organisation. You really need to have, and I think now being a director on many organisations, you must have technological savviness on a board. You have to. You have to have a person or multiple people who really recognise and understand, and who actually can thump the table and say, hang on a minute, have we thought of leveraging mobility, cloud, data? What are we doing to understand what our competitors are doing in this field? What are our customers using? How do they want to touch? I'll give you a great example. Auckland Council rolled out a civil defence app, which I think everybody should use. It's free to the consumer. So that is incredibly important for us out on the streets, tornado warnings, tsunami warnings, instant. If you ask anybody, and I often do in an event, who doesn't have a cell phone with them? Well, nobody puts their hand up. Everybody has their cell phone. So why not leverage technology to alert, to reach people? And yet pretty much every other region around the country don't use mobility to touch their citizens in their region. And to me, that's putting people at risk. So you can really so ignore at your peril, Mr. Company, who doesn't look at technology, but don't be afraid of it. Bring people on. There's so many people who have such fabulous skills, so use them.
And where do you see the convergence of these technologies heading?
It's $1 million question or $1 billion question. What they say, $33 billion business, Gartner says, by 2020 or 2025, something like that. The obvious things are mobility, because we all have devices, and often multiple. Understanding how to get intelligence out of the data, I think, is a really critical aspect. So we've got all of this great information, but how do you decipher it? How do you actually really make intelligence out of it? One thing we've done with the Network for Learning is create a really smart search capability for teachers and for kids, and that's to say, how do you find World War II information? If you Google it, you get 2 billion hits. So how do you have how do you make sense of all of that information, both at an individual level but also at a business level? So cloud computing, data, understanding that, tracking, we all heard of the Internet of Things, tracking everything that you do, where, say, eat, etc., and on the mobility side as well.
And what would be your device of choice?
Well, I have to say I do love my iPhone, even though I used to look after Microsoft, and I love Windows and I love Microsoft and what they do. But my device of choice, my iPad.
Yeah.
So this is a blend of home and work. So all my board papers is what I take. Don't take any paper. It's all on here. Go home at night, read my book, check my email, look up Facebook, see what my kids are doing, living out of town. So it's a convergence of home and work.
And what would you say is going to be the most important technology for 2015 or looking forward to 2016?
So it's a really good question. Well, mobility has to be, I think, the number one. And I think too, watch the space of, when Apple came out with their watch yesterday or the day before, I think wearables is really interesting. It's a really interesting space. So imagine a time where actually you don't carry a phone. It's all on your watch. And I kind of like the watch better than personally. Not speaking for anyone else or any organisation, rather than something like glasses, which kind of seem to be an inhibitor or more invasive. A watch is something, I love my watch. Hopefully it'll come with diamonds in it or some such thing. But I think wearables is something to watch. So mobility this year, and then evolving into wearables. But I think anything can happen. There's great innovation happening every day, and there'll be something that we haven't thought of.